Hi friends, welcome to our English Learning Story series. Today's story is called The Hidden Gold. It's told in simple, clear English to help you learn naturally while enjoying a heartwarming tale. So, get cozy, relax, and let's begin this beautiful story together. Try. Once upon a time, in a small peaceful village, there lived an old farmer named Harun. He had spent his whole life working on his land. His hands were rough from years of digging, planting, and caring for the earth. The villagers respected Harun. He was kind, wise, and very quiet. He didn't talk much, but when he did, people listened. Harun had two sons, Kamal and Rafi. They were strong young men, but they didn't love farming like their father. They wanted easier lives, maybe jobs in the city, maybe quick money. Why spend all day in the hot sun? Kamal often said. Rafi would nod and add, there must be a faster way to earn. Harun heard them, but never scolded. Instead, he kept working, watering his plants, feeding his animals, and watching the sun rise and fall over his fields. One summer evening, Harun called Kamal and Rafi to his side. His face was tired, and his eyes looked far away. He held both their hands in his, rough and calloused from the soil. My sons, he said softly, I will not live much longer. But before I go, there is something I must tell you. Kamal and Rafi sat up straight, suddenly quiet. I buried gold in this field, Harun whispered. It's deep in the soil. It's yours, but you must dig for it. The brothers looked at each other in shock. Gold? Buried here? Yes, Harun said. But remember, dig with care. Work together. The land will guide you. The next morning, Harun passed away peacefully under the large tree beside his home. The village mourned him, but Kamal and Rafi filled with curiosity ran to the fields. They began digging, first one corner, then another. They dug day after day, their hands blistered, their backs aching. They dug every piece of land Harun had ever touched, but they found no gold, no treasure, nothing shiny. Still, they kept going. Maybe it's deeper, Rafi said. Let's try near the old well. Maybe under the olive tree, Kamal added. They didn't stop. As days became weeks, and weeks became months, something unexpected began to happen. The soil became rich and soft. Tiny green shoots started to rise. Rain fell, and the seeds they didn't even know they had planted began to grow. Corn, wheat, tomatoes, beans, everything began to bloom. People in the village noticed. Look at Harun's land, they whispered. It's never looked this beautiful before. Kamal and Rafi stood in the field one morning, the sun warming their faces. The gold? Still missing, or so they thought. The sun rose gently over the village, painting the sky in warm orange and soft pink. Kamal and Rafi were already in the fields. Their clothes were dusty, and their hands were tired. But something had changed. They no longer rushed to find treasure. Instead, they looked at the land with new eyes. Do you feel that? Kamal asked one morning, as he pressed his hand into the earth. The soil is soft, almost like it's breathing. Rafi nodded. And look here, he said, pointing to rows of tiny green shoots. Did we plant something here? They didn't remember planting anything, but during their digging, seeds must have fallen from the old sacks in the barn. Some might have been hiding in the soil for years, waiting. The digging had woken them up. The brothers began to care for the shoots. At first, they just watered them. Then they pulled out weeds and built fences to keep animals away. They didn't talk much about the gold anymore, but they worked harder than ever. Each morning, they got up before the sun. Kamal fetched water from the well. Rafi carried baskets. They worked side by side, sweat rolling down their faces. Villagers who had once laughed at their dream of gold now stopped to watch them. Harun's sons, one old woman whispered, have become real farmers. But not everyone believed the change would last. They're young, another man said. They'll get tired. Just wait. Still, Kamal and Rafi kept going. Their arms grew stronger. Their backs straightened. The field, once dry and hard, was now rich and green. Corn stalks rose tall like soldiers. Tomato plants spread wide. Even sunflowers turned their heads to follow the light. One day, Rafi stood under a tree, wiping his brow. "Remember how we used to dream of the city?" he said. Kamal laughed. "I dreamed of gold coins in a wooden box. Now I dream of ripe corn in a basket." Rafi smiled. Maybe this is the gold. But deep inside, a part of them still wondered. What if the treasure was still out there, just under the next row? What if their father had left them something more? That night, they sat by the fire, remembering their father's face. "Why didn't he tell us exactly where the gold was?" Kamal asked. "Maybe he wanted us to learn something," Rafi said quietly. They looked at the field wide, dark, and full of stars above. It didn't sparkle like treasure, but it felt full, alive, important, far away. A soft wind passed through the trees. The land, as always, said nothing. But in the silence, Kamal and Rafi felt something growing, not just crops, but understanding. It was early autumn now. The crops in Harun's field stood tall, full, and ready for harvest. Bright orange pumpkins sat proudly in the earth. Wheat waved gently in the wind. The land, once rough and forgotten, was now bursting with life. Kamal and Rafi worked quietly, smiling more than they used to. Each day felt differentless about treasure, more about purpose. One morning, as the fog lifted from the trees, a stranger appeared at the edge of the field. He wore a dark coat and a wide hat. His boots were dusty from travel, and he leaned on a walking stick. Kamal noticed him first. "Can I help you?" he called. The man tipped his hat. "I'm just passing through," he said. "But I heard about a miracle field in this village. I had to see it with my own eyes." Rafi came closer, wiping his hands on his shirt. "It's not a miracle," he said. "Just hard work." The man nodded. "And your father's wisdom, perhaps?" The brothers froze. "You knew our father?" Kamal asked. The man smiled kindly. "Yes. Many years ago we worked together. He spoke often of his land and his hopes for you both." The stranger looked over the field. He said, "The land holds more than food. It holds lessons, secrets." Kamal and Rafi looked at each other. Their father's words echoed in their hearts. "Dig with care. The land will guide you." The man turned back to them. "Some think treasure is only gold or silver. But real treasure," he said, tapping his chest, "starts in here." Rafi frowned. "But why didn't he just say that? Why hide it?" "Because some truths," the man said gently, "must be lived, not told." Then, just as quickly as he came, the stranger tipped his hat once more and walked away, disappearing down the dirt path. The brothers stood in silence. The field swayed in the wind behind them. Later that evening, Kamal sat near the barn, sharpening a tool, deep in thought. Rafi joined him, holding 2 cups of warm tea. "Do you think he was telling the truth?" Kamal asked. "About knowing father?" Rafi nodded slowly. "It doesn't really matter, does it? Everything he said felt right." They sipped their tea as the sun dipped behind the hills. In the stillness, they felt something important had shifted, not in the field, but inside themselves. The next morning, harvest began. They picked tomatoes, gathered wheat, and filled baskets with fresh vegetables. Neighbors came to help, bringing smiles and laughter. Children ran between rows, chasing butterflies and calling to one another. The field had become more than a farm. It was now part of the village, part of everyone. That night, Kamal looked over the full baskets. "I think I understand now," he whispered. The gold wasn't under the ground. Rafi placed a hand on his brother's shoulder. It was in the digging. The harvest had been good, better than anyone expected. Kamal and Rafi's field was full of life and color. Baskets overflowed. Villagers came every day to buy vegetables, ask questions, and even help. Some brought small gifts. Others brought stories. But one evening, the wind changed. Dark clouds rolled in over the hills, thick and heavy. The air felt strange, too quiet, too still. The birds flew lower than usual, and the chickens clucked nervously. Rafi looked up at the sky. "A storm is coming," he said. Kamal nodded. "A strong one." They tied down the scarecrows, covered the baskets, and ran to the barn to check the tools. The wind picked up, whistling through the trees. By nightfall, the storm had arrived. Rain poured down, loud and fast. Thunder cracked across the sky like angry drums. The wind howled, bending the tall stalks of corn. Some snapped. Others leaned dangerously. Inside their small house, Kamal and Rafi sat by the window, helpless. Water ran down the glass. The field they had worked so hard to build was drowning. "We should go out there," Kamal said, jumping up. "No." Rafi grabbed his arm. "It's too dangerous." They waited. The storm raged all night. The power went out. Trees outside shook like frightened children. The brothers didn't sleep. They could only listen to the storm tear at everything they had built. When morning came, the world was quiet again. The sky was pale and tired. The wind had gone. But the field, the brothers stood at the edge of it, staring. Their hearts sank. Much of the crop had been destroyed. Rows of corn lay flat. The sunflower patch had been torn to pieces. Wooden fences were broken. Deep puddles had swallowed parts of the land. Kamal dropped to his knees. All of it. Ruined. Rafi stood still, eyes wide. "We worked so hard. Villagers came to help. But the damage was heavy. Too heavy." The brothers spent the whole day trying to fix what they could, but everything felt hopeless. That night, Rafi sat by the fire, staring into the flames. "What was the point?" he said. "Was this the lesson? That everything can disappear in one night?" Kamal didn't answer. His hands were wrapped in cloth, scratched and sore. Silence fell between them. Then soft footsteps. At the door stood a young girl from the village. She held something behind her back. "We saved this for you," she said, stepping forward. It was a perfect pumpkin, round, golden, and untouched by the storm. More villagers followed her, each carrying something: a basket of tomatoes, a bundle of wheat, a jar of honey. "We believe in this land," one woman said, "and we believe in you." Kamal looked at Rafi, eyes filled with emotion. "Maybe this is the gold," he whispered. "People. Trust." They worked together, again. The land was broken, but not gone, and neither were they. The days after the storm were hard. The field no longer looked like a dream. It looked like work muddy, broken, tired. But the brothers were not the same as before. They didn't argue. They didn't complain. They simply began again. Kamal picked up a shovel. Rafi carried broken wood to fix the fence. They worked without speaking much. Their hands knew what to do. Villagers still came. Some brought seeds. Others brought tools. One man even brought his 2 sons to help with planting. The storm had damaged the land, but it had also built something invisible: connection. Each evening, after long hours in the dirt, Kamal and Rafi would sit quietly outside the barn, drinking water and watching the stars. "Do you remember when we only cared about the treasure?" Rafi asked one night. Kamal smiled. "I thought we'd be rich in a week." Rafi laughed. "Now we're just tired in a week." But they both knew they were richer now, not in gold coins, but in strength, patience, and friendship. One afternoon, while digging near the old oak tree, Kamal's shovel hit something hard. "Rafi, come here!" Rafi ran over. Together, they dug with their hands. Slowly, a small wooden box appeared, covered in mud and roots. Their hearts pounded. Kamal opened the lid. Inside, wrapped in cloth, were a few gold coins and a note. Rafi unfolded it. The writing was old, but clear. It was their father's. "If you are reading this, you have done more than dig. You have worked, struggled, and grown. This gold is not your reward. Your reward is the land, your bond as brothers, and the love you have planted here. But take this, and use it well, perhaps to help others grow too." The brothers were silent. The coins shone in the sun, but their eyes were fixed on the words. They sat for a long time, holding the box between them. Finally, Kamal said, "He knew, all along. He wanted us to find this only after we changed." Rafi nodded. "And we did." They didn't run to the village. They didn't shout. They simply covered the hole, cleaned the coins, and placed the box gently in their home. The next day, they planted again, and this time, it felt different. Not like a search, not like a race, but like care deep, steady, real. The land welcomed them. Green shoots began to rise once more, and slowly, joy returned. The village flourished that season. People shared what they had. Children played in the fields. Music filled the evenings. The land had become more than a farm. It was now a place of hope. One evening, Kamal stood by the edge of the field as the sun set. "I don't care if we find anything else," he said. Rafi joined him. "We already did." Spring returned to the village. The hills turned green again. Flowers pushed through the earth, and the air smelled fresh and full of life. In the middle of it all, Kamal and Rafi's field stood strong. The storm had left its mark, but so had something deeper hope. The gold coins sat in a small box on a shelf in their home. They had not spent a single one. People asked what they would do with the treasure, but the brothers always smiled and said, "We're still thinking." One evening, the village children sat in the field, listening to Rafi tell stories about the land. "When we first dug this place," he said, "we were searching for treasure." "Did you find it?" a small boy asked. Rafi looked at Kamal, then back at the children. "Yes," he said, "but not in the way we expected." The children leaned in, eyes wide. "We found it in hard work," Kamal added, "in helping each other, in not giving up." That night, as the stars came out, Kamal and Rafi made their decision. The next morning, they took the gold coins to the village hall. There, they placed them in a wooden box with a new note. It read, "This gold was left to us by our father. It taught us to work, to grow, and to give. Now, we pass it on. Use it to plant, to build, to care. Let it help others the way the land helped us." The villagers were quiet. Some wiped tears from their eyes. Others simply nodded. They understood. With the gold, the village started a seed library. Anyone could take seeds to plant and return some when their crops grew. They built a small school next to the field, where children could learn not just reading and writing, but also how to care for the earth. The field became a place of learning, a place of laughter, a place of peace. Years passed. Kamal and Rafi grew older, their hair turning silver, but every morning, they still walked the field. They smiled at the rows of crops, waved at children running through the sunflowers, and greeted the villagers who had become family. One day, as they rested under the old oak tree, Rafi turned to Kamal and said, "You know, in the end, Father gave us everything we needed." Kamal nodded. "He gave us a place to grow." They sat in silence, listening to the wind in the leaves, and the field, like their hearts, was full. Thank you for reading The Hidden Gold. This story was part of our English learning series, designed to help you enjoy reading, build your vocabulary, and grow your confidence in English. If you like this story, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and share it with your friends who are learning English too. Want more cozy stories like this? Click the bell so you don't miss the next chapter in your English journey. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and remember, sometimes the treasure is already inside you. Friss.